good evening. It is the 30th, still the 30th of June, 2021. Very shortly it'll be the 1st of July. And I didn't do a video today because I had a funeral. Wonderful gentleman, served in the U.S. Navy, died much too young, but was also a federal employee. But, I saw something today that was unusual. In that he went from the funeral home, which is where I did the funeral, and we went to the burial site, Quantico National Cemetery. And typically when you have this, there'll be an honor guard, depending on what service you're in. So if it's Marines, you'll have, several Marines in dress blues, Army in dress blues, Air Force in dress blues, usually Navy in their Cracker Jack uniforms, but it's usually enlisted, low-ranking enlisted. Today, they had two officers, a lieutenant and ensign, which is an 01 and an 03, taking the flag, and the officer who was presiding was a Navy captain, which is the equivalent of a colonel in the Army, in the Marines, and the Air Force. And I said to the family afterward, I said, there was only 6 of them at the funeral. I said, your loved one had a send-off, probably a president gets an 06 to come and present the flag to the family. Maybe a president or a general, but sometimes these funerals, they're just very sparsely attended, but men who led really remarkable lives. They stepped up for their country when they didn't have to. They stepped up when it was unpopular, during the Vietnam War, which is what this gentleman did. And, they're really the heroes of this country, the people who make it run, the people who keep it running. And today what I'm going to do is it's just piggyback on what I did yesterday, which was the video and a little bit of a report on the North Carolina case where the marshals made an arrest. And the reason I'm going to do that is there's still, folks, in this day and age, it doesn't matter. The police are always going to be blamed. It doesn't matter almost the facts and circumstances. Now, in this video, it's a news report, and they show the arrest, but they also explain that the man had a gun in a console. He had 16 warrants. He tried to run over an officer. There was a lot of things. They had no other choice. But the way it's reported, you just think, what kind of country are we becoming? I get it. There's bad cops out there. I saw things. Anyone who goes into law enforcement, and it is true. Nobody wants to turn in a fellow employee who goes a little bit over the top at times and using force. And they don't use force because they're brutal, but sometimes they use force because they get ticked off. Okay, now this was not anything like that. But there's the age-old adage, you don't fight the police. But take a look at this news report, and then I'll talk a little bit about it.
First here at 5, though, the Mecklenburg County District Attorney says a U.S. Marshal who shot and killed a man will not face charges. This happened at an East Charlotte gas station back in March. We're told Frankie Jennings was wanted on several warrants. He was with his family when marshals tried to arrest him and ultimately shot and killed.
Today, the DA also released never-before-seen surveillance video from that gas station showing the moments before he was shot. And our own Brandon Goldner is live for us at that gas station with the very latest. Brandon, we know a lot to unpack here, but essentially the takeaway, the DA ultimately decided that this shooting was justified, but family members say that they're disappointed, right?
That's right, Vanessa and Fred. The real question is whether this incident and whether Frankie Jennings, when he was in his car at pump number 1, whether his actions constituted an imminent threat. The Mecklenburg County DA released this 76-page report saying yes, but his family attorneys say no. Frankie Jennings is in the white shirt. He's pumping gas into his fiance's car. A little boy is in the back seat. As he finishes up, U.S. Marshals and unmarked SUVs with flashing blue lights swerve in. Jennings moves to his Mercedes. Officers in tactical vests close behind. They try to pull him out of the car. What happens here when this police SUV pulls in front of Jennings, blocking our view, is what's at the center of the differing opinions between the DA and the Jennings family. The DA says as that gray SUV tries to block Jennings in, the Mercedes starts to move, with Senior Inspector Eric Tillman trying to pull Jennings out. Tillman claims as the car moved forward, he saw it was going to hit the officers pulling in front of Jennings. Tillman then claims Jennings tried to reach for this handgun in the center console cup holder. That's when Tillman says he shot and killed Jennings. District Attorney Spencer Merriweather felt Tillman reasonably feared for he and his fellow marshals' safety when he fired his gun. Ken Harris is one of the attorneys representing Jennings' surviving family, and he disagrees.
I am still unaware of any threat that Mr. Jennings posed in an imminent manner to anyone involved in the interaction.
He also questioned Tillman's claim that Jennings was reaching for a gun.
The other question that we're vetting is whether or not at the exact time of the shooting, Mr. Jennings had his left hand in the air and his right hand on the steering wheel.
He says the family hopes Jennings' death will inspire change in how police interact with people in these situations. And some of those Jennings family attorneys will be holding a news conference later this week to discuss the civil steps that the family will be taking next. Live along the plaza, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
And of course, now that you saw that, big surprise. He had his hand on the steering wheel and the other one in the air. Now it takes, like that to shoot somebody, especially a guy who has 16 warrants, who has experience shooting people. But that just goes to show you. I mean, the media will interview anybody, any crank, any preposterous claim, and they treat it as if it was being made by, I won't say a sane person, by a rational person. I think no rational person would find that shooting, to be anything but perfectly justified. It's a tragedy. Nobody wants to go out and shoot anybody. Okay, but again, he had no other choice. There was one man who's responsible for the death of Mr. Jennings, and that is Mr. Jennings. But we live in a world where nobody gets responsibility for anything. We infantilize people. How's that? But the marshals are a dangerous. The marshals test ground. Put one more on, and then I'm gonna call it a night. But another one, just the next day, we just had another one in Texas. So put this on, then I'll do a little more talk, and then we're done.
U.S. Marshals and police arrested the man accused of shooting a police officer in Rome, Texas. There was a search that lasted more than a week. Royce Wood and his girlfriend Tiffany Caswell were arrested early this morning outside a motel in Batesville, Arkansas. According to the Wise County Messenger, on June 13th, a Rome police officer pulled over Wood on a motorcycle. He stopped, shot the officer in the leg, and then took off. The injured officer has not been identified, but is expected to make a full recovery. Wood was wanted for aggravated robbery and aggravated assault on a public servant. Police say Caswell was wanted for a June 12th aggravated robbery. Katie Johnston for CBSN DFW.
So that's it. The two takeaways. Doesn't matter how justified you are. In the eyes of some people, they are so prejudiced. You're always unjustified, okay? You're just unjustified. So that's called prejudice, and it's sad. And then the other takeaway is that, the Fugitive Task Force of the United States Marshals, it's of all the federal law enforcement agencies, all the state law enforcement, all the local law enforcement agencies, that one is the most dangerous. So anyone who wants to go on it in this environment, again, I started by speaking about a man who stood up at a time when, a lot of people, it wasn't convenient to do that. It surely was not convenient, to go to Vietnam. It wasn't convenient, but he did that, and God bless him for it. And God bless anybody who wants to work in law enforcement. And thank you for the kind comments, and I am very grateful for all of you. And I'm looking forward to you getting into law enforcement so you can protect me, okay? So have a good night, and I'll come up with another topic very soon.